Human design, boundaries, and empathy. There are 9 centers in the human design wave chart. You can have each center defined, colored in, secure, consistent, stable, or open or undefined, where the center is white, where you're flexible and open to outside influence. Each center potentially can cause you to have a form of empathy if the center is open or undefined, which is modified by the function of the center. If your center is defined, then boundaries include your being able to be aware that you are influencing others and to do so with positive intentions and without overwhelming or intruding upon others. And with open centers, boundaries includes being aware that you are influenced or defined by anyone that has a defined center, and being able to distinguish between their energy and your own. So you might want to pause now and get out your human design chart and another human design chart of somebody that you are close to, friends with, family member, partner, as we go through each of the centers and compare whether you have an open or defined center and whether they do as well. So let's start with the head. If your head is defined, then you by default will also have a defined ajna through the connection between the two centers. If your head is open, you can have either a defined ajna which is connected to your throat or an open ajna as well. When they're both defined, you're always thinking and affecting the environment, and you may want to practice choosing neutral thoughts. If you have an open head and a defined ajna, you can entertain infinite possibilities and yet come to certainty about them. You can also choose what is worthy to think about and avoid being obsessive. If you have an open head and an open ajna, you're very influenced by others' thoughts and need to spend time alone to clear your mind. The gates in the head include the 64, the gate of confusion, the 61, the gate of mystery, and the 63, the gate of doubt. 30% of people have a defined head, so the majority of us have an open head. When you have a defined head center, the head center, first of all, is a pressure center, and you have the potential to be inspiring to others and to have a fixed way of providing this inspiration. And you have a fixed way of dealing with mental pressure, although you do have the possibility or potential to overthink and to obsess. If your head center is open, then most of your thoughts and questions, your inspiration is coming from outside of your head, and that's why you constantly think about things that maybe don't matter to you, and your head is full of questions, and these thoughts and questions are coming in from other people. You are receiving the influence from anyone who has a defined head that is within your aura at the time. So if you have an open head center, you may want to be working on emotional boundaries and mental boundaries in terms of knowing that when you are either inspired or anxious mentally, when you are seeking for answers to questions, ask yourself, whose questions are these? And do you really need to be seeking the answers? And that the answers don't necessarily relieve mental pressure, actually releasing the questions is your route to relieving mental pressure. And naming the source of the questions or the source of mental pressure as coming from someone in your interactions who has a defined head. The gates in the Ajna Center include the 4, the gate of formalization, the 17, the gate of opinions, the 24, the gate of rationalization, the 43, the gate of insight, the 47, the gate of realization, and the 11, the gate of ideas. The 47, 24, and 4 connecting possibly to your head, and the 17, 43, and 11 connecting to your throat. About even how many people in the population have a defined or an open ajna. 51% have it defined and 49% have it open. When you have a defined ajna, you have a fixed way of thinking and you enjoy research. Where the head is pulling in information, the ajna is how we process it, and you would have a stable, fixed way of doing that. So this is one of our awareness centers. 49% have an open ajna center, meaning no consistency, or on the other way of putting it, great flexibility in the way that thoughts are accessed and processed. So the nature of your thought process is conditioned from the outside by other people with a defined ajna or by planetary transits. So just knowing that when you're alone, you have more flexibility of thought. When you are around somebody with a defined ajna, that can condition and limit your method of processing your thoughts. So potential wisdom for the open ajna is, I'm fine with not being certain. Great flexibility and thus creativity of thought process. And knowing that if you become anxious around such questions as, I better figure this out. We have to figure this out. What should I do with my life? I've got to figure out what to do with my life. Where's my next move? I better not share this because people are going to think I'm weird or strange or uncertain. I'm not going to share my opinion because I don't want to be challenged. I have to be ready for the challenge. What am I going to say? So releasing that anxiety and resting in your flexibility and not needing to prove certainty is a way to have emotional boundaries with your open ajna center. And then also being aware that you may amplify and reflect back to someone with a defined ajna either their certainty or inflexibility, or possibly their own anxiety in this realm. And if you have a defined ajna, being aware of being potentially intrusive or limiting or inflexible in your manner of responding to someone else's flexibility of how they process their thoughts. With the throat center, both defined and undefined throats can actually talk too much. When you have a defined throat, you are either a manifestor or a manifesting generator, and another piece of the defined throat is to remember to inform before manifesting or taking action. There are 8 gates in the G center, also known as the self center. The 1 relates to unique contribution and going up to the throat. The 7 also goes to the throat and relates to equal voice. The 13 goes up to the throat, relates to forgiveness. The 10 goes down to the spleen and relates to self-love. The 25 goes to the heart or ego and relates to spirit. The 15, 2, and the 46 go down to the sacral center. The 15 relates to fellowship, the 2 to support, and the 46 to vitality. With an open G, you may try to fix or control issues of love, direction, and identity. for yourself. If you have a defined G, then you have a fixed direction in life and can find the right love in your life. You also can share comfort with others about their direction if they have an open G. And if you have an open G, remember that you can focus on where you are now and who you are with and whether you are feeling comfortable. Again, it's about even in this, whether there is a defined G or an open G. 46% of people have a defined G, the center of love, direction in life and identity, and you would have a consistent sense of your identity, knowing who you are, a consistent sense of your direction in life, knowing where you're headed, and fixed love, the way that it plays out in your life, getting it and expressing it, a fixed sense that you can find love in your life. 54% of people have an open G, where you don't know where your life is going, the direction it's taking. You don't always get the love you need, and you can enjoy not knowing where your life will take you and trusting life, remaining flexible. Questions you may ask if you are in the not self with your open G is a desperate sense of, who am I? Where should I go to find out who I am? Who can show me? Who am I going to love? Who is going to love me? How do I find them? Where can I find them? What am I going to do with my life? Where should I go to figure out what to do with my life? Is it there? Is it here? Where is it? Do I feel lost? Let's go here because we might find something that will show me who I am or what to do with my life. Let's have a relationship with this person because I'll get a sense of who I am. However, the potential wisdom for your open G is to no longer look for love, the direction in your life, or who you are, your identity, yourself out there. And by focusing on living in according to your design, to your authority, love comes to you and you know the next step to take when the time is right. So resting in feeling what makes you feel good, and at times also not knowing those things and just embracing your flexibility. So in terms of boundaries here, if you have a defined G, knowing that your highest intention is to help others find direction consciously and positively rather than unconsciously providing this for them. And if you have an open G, recognizing that you may be dependent on others for that direction. You may feel that you need to be with someone with a defined G to give you that sense of self, rather than consciously receiving that direction, but also knowing that that's not the only source of that for you. With the heart, ego, or will center, when you have that center open, remembering that you have nothing to prove, also that you don't have a consistent willpower, so you shouldn't make promises. You can say that you will try to do something, but that not giving a definite, I'm absolutely going to do something, or even a promise to yourself around whether you will have the willpower to follow through on something, remaining flexible there. If you do have this center defined, then you have that consistent willpower and consistent self-worth. But don't expect others to have the same. You may not understand what it feels like to have this center open. And the other aspect around this center is that it can be the authority, ego projected or manifested, exclusive only to manifestors and projectors. Only 35% of the population, so a minority, have that defined ego heart center where they will have consistent self-worth and self-esteem and willpower. And with this definition, you will are here to embrace the material plane fully as you have the willpower to manifest and to feel secure in your ego. You do also love to spend money if this center is defined. With this center undefined or open, 65% of you will have that. There is no consistency in implying your willpower. Therefore, you may have lower self-esteem, or your self-esteem will be set. You can also have higher self-esteem, but you'll have a tendency to overcompensate by being perhaps too competitive or in control, and too much emphasis on proving your worth to others. And you may tend to want to make promises, which you actually should not do with this center open. When in the not self, you may be thinking, I better do this. If I don't, I won't be worthy. I have to be in control. I have to be brave. I have to pump myself up so that I feel worthy and good about myself, and then others will see my value. Well, if I just tell it like it is and make this promise, then they will see how wonderful I am. And they'll think I can do this, so I better prove to them that I can. If I'm in control, then I can prove my worth. So the potential wisdom to keep resting in with this open ego, heart, willpower center is I have nothing to prove and I don't need to make promises. So boundaries between these two centers relate to the defined ego person feeling secure and possibly appearing arrogant and not understanding or perhaps putting down someone with the undefined ego center, and then being aware that the open heart can notice or track whether the other person with the defined center really has the ability or justification for their sense of self-esteem and worthiness. You have an ability to reflect that back to the other person and need to have a sense that that's the other person's issue and separate that, having an emotional boundary around that. There are 9 gates in the sacral center. The 34 is the gate of power. The 3 gates that lead up to the G center are Gate 5, the gate of fixed rhythms. Gate 14, the gate of power skills. Gate 29, the gate of saying yes or perseverance. Gate 27 leads to the spleen, and that's the gate of caring. Gate 59 leads to the solar plexus, and that is the gate of sexuality. And the 3 gates that lead down to the root are the 42, the gate of growth, Gate 3, the gate of ordering, and Gate 9, the gate of energy for detail. If your sacral center is defined, then by definition you're an energy being and a generator, possibly a manifesting generator, which is a subtype. If your sacral center is not defined, undefined, or open, then you are a non-energy being and one of the 3 other aura types, the manifester, the projector, or the reflector. With an defined sacral center, you can harness an incredible amount of energy as long as you're choosing the right projects. And if you have an undefined sacral center, you may work but in spurts, and you need to stop working whenever you get tired. About 70% of the population is a defined sacral being, and with this, they automatically are generators, and they can respond with the sacral voice, which means a guttural sound rather than words or using the mind. So you would ask yourself or have someone else ask you, do you like chocolate? Uh-huh. Do you like vanilla? Uh-uh. And you have consistent access to vitality, energy. You're a worker and a builder, but generators have also been the slaves of the world. So You work correctly only in response, so your strategy is to wait for things to come to you and use your sacral voice to determine which is right to pursue. So, a defined sacral is not meant to initiate. If you're a manifestor, projector, or a reflector, your sacral center is open or undefined, and you are usually 30% of the population. Not having a consistent access to this source of energy, you will tend to overwork yourself. And actually, it is said that you're not here to work, if you're a projector at least, and you may be here to guide generators and to be some form of consultant. When you're in the not self with an open sacral center, you may be saying, let's keep working. We really need to get this done. I can keep going. Let me just get a cup of coffee. We can do that too, not a problem. We're not tired yet. I don't want to take a nap or lay down. There's too much to do. Let's take care of that for them, and I have to do it myself. And let's go find a mate. Who can we take care of? I don't think it's enough yet. Boundaries? What boundaries? So the sacral center is also a sexuality center, and the defined sacral will usually lead sexual interactions, and the open center sacral will be influenced by the sexual energy of someone with the defined sacral. The wisdom when you relax into your open sacral center is, I know when enough is enough. The gate 48 is the fear of inadequacy. The gate 57 is fear of tomorrow. Gate 44 is the fear of the past. Gate 50 is the fear of responsibility. Gate 32, the fear of failure. Gate 28, the fear of death. And gate 11, the fear of authority. Gate 44 is also called the gate of alertness, and gate 32, the gate of continuity. Gate 57 is also called the gate of intuitive clarity, and gate 28 is the gate of the game player. Gate 48 is the gate of depth, and gate 18 is the gate of correction. If you have an undefined spleen, then you have no consistent source of well-being, whereas a defined spleen provides a consistent source of well-being. So there's a typo there. With an undefined spleen, you may hold on to things that are no longer good for you, but you can also sense when others are unhealthy. And when you have a defined spleen, you may ignore your instincts in the moment, and you can also help other people feel good. If this happens to be your authority, if you have splenic authority, then you need to listen to your quiet voice of intuition, which only speaks once. 53% of people have defined spleen, so it's about 50-50. And again, that means you have a strong intuition, a reliable immune system, and a fixed way of dealing with fears, which is why the gates are labeled by the fears they relate to. And this can result in your feeling a general inner security. Whereas 47% of the population have an open spleen, and that means that you You can't rely on your intuition. It's inflexible, and you're more open to all kinds of fears. You may have a weaker immune system, making you very sensitive to your body. But you are able, so here's a type of medical empathy or medical intuition. You're good at seeing the health of others, not knowing really when enough is enough. Again, you can get addicted to the good feeling that others with a defined spleen bring to you. And it is really important for you not to be spontaneous, that you really need to listen to your body because it can be quite devastating to your health if you are spontaneous. When you're in the not self with this open spleen, you can have the thoughts of, let's not do that because it makes me insecure, or because I'm afraid, or I feel fearful every time I think about doing that. Let's not say that because it might upset that person. I'm afraid of doing that because I'm afraid of what the outcome will be, or what the future will bring, or I'm afraid of responsibility or criticism. So, resting in the potential wisdom of your open spleen, which is knowing what is healthy for you or not, and who is healthy for you to be around, and having emotional boundaries around picking up on the health conditions of other people, knowing that they're not your own, and doing what you need to do to be in your own energy. And for the defined spleen, just knowing that you do make other people feel good or lend that sense of security to them, and they can become dependent on that. There are 7 gates in the solar plexus. Gate 6, leading to the sacral center, is the gate of friction. Gate 37, leading to the heart, is the gate of friendship. Gate 49, leading to the root, is the gate of principles. Gate 22, leading to the throat, is the gate of openness. Gate 55, leading to the root, is the gate of spirit. Gate 36, leading to the throat, is the gate of crisis. And gate 30, leading to the root, is the gate of feelings. If you have the solar plexus defined, it is by default your emotional authority. And even if you have other centers defined that can be authorities, this trumps them. If you have it defined, then you have an emotional wave where you will become anxious and then calm, anxious and then calm, anxious then calm. And it is important for you not to make decisions in the moment, evaluating them both when your wave is anxious and when it is calm, and seeing if you feel the same in both places, and finalizing decisions when you're not anxious. If you have the solar plexus emotional center undefined or open, then we call you a non-emotional being and an empath. Now, you can have empathy from any of the centers. If you don't have this center open, then your empathy is not necessarily emotional, and you might want to explore the nature of it coming from other open centers, when in this case you are around anyone with a defined emotional center, then you are amplifying and reflecting back their emotions, and sometimes will be labeled as emotional, but often these are not your emotions, and therefore tend to avoid conflict, and should never trust an emotion as it is most likely someone else's. As with all of the open centers, it's important that you are in your own aura, away from other people, to reset and feel what it is that you truly feel without the influence from another person's defined center. And it's 50% of the population defined and 50% undefined. Again, if you have it defined, then you have the emotional wave that's part of your mechanics, and you can never get rid of that. Begin to just ride this wave and get to know your pattern, going up and everything feeling wonderful, or feeling activated and too intense, and then going down and things feel grim and there doesn't seem to be hope. So therefore there is no truth in the now. You want to find truth that goes to both ends of your wave. And again, for you, just like the open spleen, spontaneity can kill you. Therefore it is important for you not to make decisions in the moment, And clarity comes for you over time, and be patient. So let's look at the combination. What if someone has both an open spleen and an open solar plexus? Then you have the emotional empathy. You can also see the health of others, and you can have fearfulness and weakened immune system. So you're very open, very vulnerable, very much needs to have a lot of time to yourself. On the opposite spectrum, what if someone has defined spleen and defined solar plexus? So in this case, you would have a strong sense of intuition and a reliable immune system, a fixed way of dealing with fears, and you'd be fairly secure. So you do have intuition, but you would not have emotional empathy. You would have more of an emotional wave affecting others. So you might perceive yourself to be empathic, but really focus on your splenic intuition as being the source of that. If you have a defined spleen and an open solar plexus, then you would have a combination of intuition and the emotional empathy. So you would have a inner security, a fixed way of dealing with fears, having a reliable immune system, but having a very defined intuition, and then having a great sensitivity to the moods of other people, and sometimes amplifying and pulling in their emotions. So being able to be identifying other people's emotions and being clear that oftentimes the emotions you're feeling are actually theirs. The reverse, if you have an open spleen and a defined solar plexus, would mean that you would be able to feel and see the health of other people. You would tend to be more fearful, having a weaker immune system, and you would have an emotional wave. Therefore, you, in both cases, really need to avoid spontaneity, need to be in your own aura to feel and listen to your intuition, but not being able to really rely on it as well as someone with a defined spleen. The root center finally has 9 gates. The 3 that go up to the sacral are the 53 gate of beginnings, the 60 gate of acceptance, and the 52 gate of inaction. The 3 that go to the spleen are the 54 gate of drive, 58 gate of vitality, and in the middle there, the gate 38, the gate of the fighter. And the 3 that go to the solar plexus are the 19 gate of wanting, the 39 gate of provocation, and the 41 gate of contraction. The root is a pressure center like the head is. If you have the root center defined, then you have a consistent way of dealing with stress, whereas if it's open or undefined, you do not. If it is open and undefined, you may be addicted to adrenaline, or conversely, you could be averse to adrenaline and need to use your strategy to decide what is worthy of dealing with quickly. If you have it defined, then you can be hard on others who can't deal with stress. You also may hold pressure in your body, and you need to process your own pressure through your design and authority and strategy. The majority of people have the root defined, 68%, and having that fixed way of dealing with physical pressure and a drive to do things that helps create movement in your life. You can also keep your cool and not allow others to pressure you. You have a natural ability to deal with and release pressure. You actually tend to pressure others, and you're sending out energy from this center to people who have the root center open. The 32% of people with the open root tend to do things fast and work hard because they're constantly trying to get rid of this pressure, which is actually never going to go away, at least when you are around anyone with a defined root. You have the potential, if you can get past that, to naturally be still and allow pressure to flow through you without acting upon it. When in the not self with the open root, you may be thinking, I better hurry up and get this done. I have to start something new now. How can I get past this limitation? What am I going to do to make my life better? Where's my purpose? I have to achieve something in my life. What am I going to focus on? I need something to focus on. I need to be needed. Who needs me? Where can I go to be needed? Where's my passion? What am I passionate about? I don't want to waste any time. I have to get this done. So, in order to relax from that into your potential wisdom for having the open root is you get to know what pressure is correct for you or not. You also, when you're feeling pressured, need to figure out who is in your aura at the moment that has a defined root that may be pressuring you in order to have boundaries there. And again, if you have the defined root to have boundaries around, you can motivate people but not push them past their own pace at dealing with stress.